The full bench of the Gauteng High Court in Johannesburg will hear President Cyril Ramaphosa's urgent interdict application against former President Jacob Zuma's private criminal prosecution bid on Thursday, the 12th of January 2023. The Jacob Zuma Foundation revealing this today. Ramaphosa has launched the urgent bid to, among other things, interdict Zuma from taking any further steps to give effect to his private prosecution against him. The president is also seeking the court to excuse him from appearing before it on the 19th of January 2023, as directed by the summons. This comes after former President Zuma launched a private prosecution bid against the president for allegedly contravening the NPA Act on the disclosure of his medical records, a private prosecution matter already before the court against prosecutor Billy Downer and journalist Karen Moore. In his response, Zuma argues, amongst other things, that Ramaphosa's application is neither urgent nor deserving of the court's attention. He further describes it as an abuse of a process that is designed to shield Ramaphosa from accountability. The former president further argues that Ramaphosa failed to meet the requirements for an interim interdict and has asked the court to dismiss the application. Alternatively, to strike it off the roll with courts, proceedings are expected to start at 10 a.m. on Thursday. Legal expert Ulrich Roux joins us now via Zoom to talk a little bit more about this. A very good evening to you, and thank you so much for speaking to us, Ulrich. Perhaps let me just first start with that excerpt that I just read of the report. It seems both the former and the current president are accusing each other of abuse of a process. Just to outline that concept for us, please.
Hi, good evening. Yes, thank you for having me. Well, certainly I think that there's merit in the current president's argument, Mr. Ramaphosa, that there's an abuse of the process by Jacob Zuma. And the reason why I say so is that in order to institute a private prosecution, you need to obtain a nolli prosecute certificate from the National Prosecuting Authority. And what that entails is that the NPA has confirmed that they will not be prosecuting a criminal charge that has been laid. Now, Jacob Zuma obtained a nolli prosecute certificate against Karen Moore and advocate Billy Downer pertaining to the disclosure of his medical records before the High Court, and that it was a contravention of the NPA Act. But nowhere on that nolli prosecute certificate appears President Ramaphosa's name. And in that regard, I think that it is an abuse. I don't foresee there being any chances of success of Jacob Zuma's private prosecution of President Cyril Ramaphosa. And I do foresee that the High Court on Thursday, where a full bench of 3 judges will be adjudicating the urgent interdict application launched by President Ramaphosa, will make such a ruling to say that there's no proper process that has been followed by Jacob Zuma. Should he wish to institute a private prosecution, then he should obtain a nolli prosecute certificate specifically in the name of Cyril Ramaphosa, and then he is free to launch that private prosecution, obviously complying with all of the requirements as set out in Section 7 of the Criminal Procedure Act. So I do think that there has been an abuse of the process by Jacob Zuma. I think that President Ramaphosa is fully within his rights to have launched this urgent interdict application. He has been summoned to appear in the criminal court on a private prosecution on the 19th of January. So obviously the urgency lies in the fact that he would want an adjudication by the High Court to be made prior to that, and for an interdict to be granted, which prohibits Jacob Zuma from proceeding with a private prosecution, and for that private prosecution matter to be taken on review.
Okay. Ulrich, let me just jump in here so that we can get other questions in. I mean, you mentioned the fact that the process is already underway, the private prosecution by the former president of advocate Billy Downer and journalist Karen Moore. The question of the timing of the summons was raised by President Cyril Ramaphosa. The question then for me becomes, why did the former president not mention the president from the onset when he spoke about alleged abuse of process or breach of the NPA Act? And why only mention the president's inability to act? I think this is what the summarization of it is on his complaint. What are your thoughts about this? And is there any guideline on ethics and timing of filing of matters?
Yes, and if one looks at President Ramaphosa's interdict application, he makes it clear that Jacob Zuma has merely launched these private prosecution proceedings against him with a political agenda, to prevent President Ramaphosa from obtaining enough votes to be elected as the president of the ANC once again. That's why the summons was served on him on the 15th of December, shortly before the ANC election, and that there's a political motive behind this entire procedure. So, there's no real ethics pertaining to when a summons should be served, but one can draw your own conclusions. And I think that there's merit in what President Ramaphosa is saying, that the timing of this summons coincided with the ANC election. And it is clear that there's a political agenda that Jacob Zuma is driving by having issued the summons at this stage.
Was there an opportunity for the former president to bring in current President Cyril Ramaphosa during the initial private prosecution of advocate Billy Downer and Karen Moore? And what does it really mean when one is accused of breach of the NPA Act? Just so that we can tie in. So if we move away from the timing and one says the former president wanted to apply his mind to it, and at a later stage through legal counsel, it was advised that actually this is a very important aspect. Was there an opportunity before? And what does it mean that the current president is being accused of breach of the NPA Act?
Yes, that's a very good question, because I think there's a lot of speculation as to what exactly Jacob Zuma is accusing President Ramaphosa of. Remember that he's accusing Karen Moore and Billy Downer of the fact that his medical records were disclosed by prosecutor Billy Downer to a journalist, Karen Moore, prior to it having been handed up in the High Court. And that was a breach of the NPA Act in that it was confidential information, and it was information relating to his medical conditions, and that Billy Downer, as a prosecutor, had contravened the National Prosecuting Act by disclosing it to Karen Moore prior to the appearance which took place the next day, and when those documents were formally handed up in court. One can only speculate as to under what grounds he is now accusing President Ramaphosa of having contravened the NPA Act. But in my view, it's most likely that President Ramaphosa, as the president of the country, should have prevented this from happening. But one would have to wait and see if this private prosecution actually sees, it has its day in court, which I doubt, as to what the actual allegations are against President Ramaphosa that Jacob Zuma is accusing him of.
And just finally, this particular process that takes off as of Thursday, will it impact on what is already before the court's private prosecution of Billy Downer and Karen Moore, but also the arms deal, because we know this is part of that process?
No, there are three completely separate matters. Obviously, the arms deal matter, the criminal charge that Jacob Zuma is facing, is continuing, as well as the application that Karen Moore and Billy Downer have launched to take the private prosecution instituted by Jacob Zuma on review. But the private prosecution instituted against President Ramaphosa is now yet again a separate matter from that. So there are three very distinct matters. They should not really affect each other, although the pleadings that are exchanged through the various High Court review applications and interdict applications could very well be used in the criminal court. Either be it in the arms deal case that Jacob Zuma is facing, or in the private prosecution matter against Billy Downer and Karen Maughan, should that proceed, and should their review of those proceedings not be successful.
All right, thank you so much for your time and sharing your insights, legal expert Ulrich Roux speaking to us there.